Ready, Rachel? Good evening. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Invocation to be led by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Thank you, sir.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can come here and serve our town. We thank you for your many blessings, and we thank you that we live in the great country of the United States, the great state of Texas, and the great town of Sunnyvale. Please provide wisdom and your guidance to this council that we make as we make decisions and listen to all the issues of the town. Thank you again for your love. Thank you for everything you do for us. Amen.
Amen. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All right, good evening, everyone. Now, time is 7:07. Welcome to the regular town council meeting for Town of Sunnyvale for Monday, February 13th, 2023. For the record, we have all council members present and we have quorum. The first item on the agenda is introductions. Introduction of new employee Carl Smith, firefighter paramedic. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's certainly and always an honor to come up here and introduce a new employee to our fire family. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Carl Smith, sir, if you'd come up here. He's also brought his family with him tonight as well. Carl has been a firefighter for 8 years, paramedic for 7, and he started his first shift last Saturday, and he's doing really well. I'm really proud to have him, and like I said, he's good for the family that we have. So again, Council, I'd like to introduce it to Carl Smith.
Join the picture?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Family can come join.
If they want to be up there with these hooligans.
Yeah,
That's right.
Bring the fam.
Bring the fam. That's what we are.
This guy is
Here, come stand next to son on there. There we go.
There you go. Perfect.
I knew I'd get somebody on this one.
Welcome aboard, man. Thank you very much.
I'll take that off your hands. Thank you.
All right, it's always fun to welcome someone new. Again, moving on to the recognition portion of the agenda, item number 4, recognition of the Sunnyvale Police Department for their 2022 National Night Out ranking. Chief.
Mayor and Council, as you know, that we participated in our second National Night Out this year. Last year, 21, we ranked 21st in the nation for best participation. And this year we moved up to 15th in the nation. So largely because of Miss Angie's work. So this is a plaque to the town that says National Award 2022, recognizing outstanding participation in America's Night Out Against Crime, presented by National Association of Town Watch to Sunnyvale, Texas. And since it was largely due to Angie's work, I'm going to present it to her tonight.
Good job, police team. All right. Moving on to the announcements and acknowledgement. This is the time pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415. Mayor, council, and staff members may report on various items listed on the agenda. Council, do you have any announcements to make? Jeff, you have any announcement? Staff? Okay. Close to that item. Moving on to the public comments. This is the time members of the public may come forward and speak to the council on any item other than personnel or legal matters or items on the agenda. If there's anyone who would like to come forward and speak to the council, you may do so at this time. Nobody is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Moving on to the consent agenda items. Council, we have two items, item number 6 and 7. Would anyone like to remove either of the items from the consent agenda? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to pass the consent agenda items 6 and 7?
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Finch, second by Mr. Allen, to approve consent agenda items 6 and 7. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 7-0. Moving on to the public hearing items. Item number 8. Hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act upon the first reading of Ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance of the town of Sunnyvale, Texas, continuing, re-establishing, and approving Article 8.700, juvenile curfew of the town of Sunnyvale Code of Ordinances, and amending Section 8.706, expiration, providing for severability, a penalty, savings, a repeal, and an effective date. Who would that be?
That would be me, Mayor.
Ramsey?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So right now, our current curfew is from 11:01 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 12:01 a.m. to 6 a.m. Friday and Saturday. Local government code requires that any municipality that has passed an ordinance for juvenile curfew, that you have to review that on or before its third anniversary, and you must do it every year thereafter, or every third year thereafter. You should also conduct a public hearing on the need to change, amend, or keep it as is. Failure to comply shall cause the ordinance to expire. Staff and legal have both reviewed the ordinance, and we recommend approving it as is to keep it the same. The only thing that changes within the ordinance is the expiration date. I spoke to Chief about it before the meeting, and he is good with it as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Let me open up for public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 8, you may come forward. No one is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, any questions or discussions on item number 8?
Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, the curfew ends at 11:01 p.m. During the weeknights. If we have,
Starts.
I'm sorry,
Starts at 11 p.m.
starts 11, right, I'm sorry.
11 to 6.
Yes. What provisions do we have for high school students or any other students that will be working back and forth? I don't recall seeing that in the ordinance. So how would we give leniency to those that are actually coming back from work?
I mean, so if they can prove that to the police officer's not most likely not going to write them a ticket for that. That is also something that they could bring to court and show.
Wait a minute, you said most likely will not.
Right, but if they did, that is also a defense to prosecution. They could bring that to court and show proof.
Okay.
Are there additional questions or discussions? Okay, if not, can I call for a motion on item number 8?
Motion to approve item 8 as presented.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Freeman, second by Mr. Finch to approve item number 8 as presented. Everyone heard the motion? The additional discussions? If not, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 7-0. Motion passed. This is the first reading of the ordinance, so Rachel, I'm assuming that you'll bring it back as a consent agenda item the next meeting, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, presentation. What's up? Okay. Item number 9, presentation related to the Sunnyvale Police Department's racial profiling report. Chief?
Mayor, council, as you're aware, the state law requires each law enforcement agency that makes traffic stops to not only track their racial profiling data, but also do an analysis on it every year. We employ Del Carmen Consulting, who's one of the premier racial profiling experts out of Tarleton State University, and he takes our data and evaluates it and provides an analysis for it. So it's a long report that I'm going to leave with you, but I want to go over just a few the highlights. One of the aspects of the law is that we're required to have a racial profiling policy. Our policy is adopted from best practices, and it's a zero tolerance policy. Last year we had 0 complaints on officers for any type of racial profiling abuse, so I'm proud of that. Total traffic stops 3,423. Total moving violations was 2,253. 2,943 of those were conducted on city streets, U.S. Highway 332 and State Highway 13. The ethnicity of the driver that was known before the traffic stop was 93 stops. That was not known before the traffic stop was 3,330. We stopped 1,396 Caucasian drivers. 36% of those drivers were issued citations. We stopped 1,037 black drivers at 31% issued citations. Hispanics drivers was 772 at a 29% receiving citations. Asian, 203 drivers at 4% receiving a citation, and 15 Native American drivers. And I didn't write down that percentage. I think it was 2%. Searches, 40% of black drivers were searched, with 41% of those searches resulting in contraband being found. White drivers were searched at 36%, with 35% of contraband being found in those searches. Hispanic drivers were searched 23% of the time, and 24% of those searches revealed contraband. The comprehensive data analysis included in this report serves as evidence that the Sunnyvale Police Department has complied with the Texas racial profiling law and all of its requirements. Further, the report demonstrates that the police department has incorporated a comprehensive racial profiling policy, currently offers information to the public on how to file a complaint or compliment, commissions quarterly data audits in order to ensure validity and reliability, collects and commissions the analysis of Tier 2 data, and ensures that the practice of racial profiling will not be tolerated. And that's all I have on that. I'll leave you this copy, Mayor. Do you have any questions for me?
Chief, you used the same consultant last year, correct?
Yes,
For
sir.
the study?
Yes, sir.
I heard the percentages are different. Was there any comment about the difference in percentages? It is significant, or that is just the
No, we're in normal guidelines for the national acceptance level.
council? Any question for Chief?
And I'm required by law to give you a copy.
Just me? Just
Thank you, Chief.
Brenda, do I take public comments on this one?
You certainly may.
May, okay. Okay. So at this time, let me open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and ask a question or discuss Item number 9, you may do so at this time. Okay, no one is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, additional questions or comments?
Mayor, before you move on to the next item, I did want to answer Councilman Allen's question on the juvenile curfew. There are 10 defenses to prosecution under the ordinance that include all kinds of things, but the thing I wanted to point out is there's a provision specifically that says, before taking any enforcement action under this article, a police officer shall ask the apparent offender's age and reason for being in the public place. The officer shall not issue a citation or make an arrest under this article unless the officer reasonably believes that an offense has occurred and that based on any response and other circumstances, no defense is present.
Thank you, Brenda, appreciate it.
Okay, Rachel, there is no action. This is more of a report, right? No action to be taken in this case, right? Okay, so the agenda says presentation, but acceptance is part, okay. Council, you heard the presentation, some other discussions. Can I have a motion to accept the report, please?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Egan, second by Mr. Clark to accept this year's profiling report. Everyone heard the motion? Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. All opposed? Mr. Adam? So what?
I'm in favor.
Okay. Motion passed 7-0. Now we know Luke, right? Moving on to item, discussion action items. Item number 10. Discuss, consider, and act upon a proposal from Kimley Horn Engineering in an amount not to exceed $17,000 for a traffic study on Rebecca Road, including analysis and recommendations. That'd be you, Mr.
Mayor George, thank you. I'm just going to provide some introductory comments because really items, the next 4 items, items 10, 11, 12, and 13, all relate to some traffic safety initiatives that we are bringing to you tonight. Each individual action item, so our town engineer will present the first 2 items, 10 and 11, and Chief Hawks will present items 12 and 13. All 4 of these items are in response to increased calls from residents about speeding concerns they have on a variety of roadways in town. So this is the beginning, I guess, of staff's recommendations to council for some things that we can undertake to help try to mitigate and keep our roads safe for our residents and our visitors and our businesses. So having said that, I will ask our town engineer to present item number 10.
Good evening, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. As is stated on the report, this proposal is from Kimley Horn Engineering to do a roughly 1-week traffic survey of traffic in Rebecca Road, which would include counts in both northbound and southbound directions as well as average speed. In addition to just obtaining the data, they would then evaluate it and make recommendations to the town as what some appropriate calming measures might be, such as, but not limited to, speed humps, traffic calming circles, and other such features. Their analysis would include the feasibility of construction of said features and estimated cost. The base for the fee, the base fee for the report is $12,000. Then they have an additional hourly not to exceed sum of $5,000 if the event of any needed presentations to council or to the public or any other additional work they might need to do. So that would be the not to exceed $17,000 total. That being said, I'd like to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Let me open up for public comments. Is there anyone from the members of the audience who would like to speak to the council on item number 10? You may come forward. No one is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, any questions or discussion on item number 10? Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Jenkins, my question is simple. We just looked at data that was provided by a trailer that said how many cars were going each direction, what their average speed was. What value is this group going to add to the data that we just had? And if they're going to add value above and beyond the data that we've been given, can they not use the data that we've already collected and give their opinions on that at a reduced cost?
I'm certainly happy to bring that question to them. We could certainly provide the data to them. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same road. You're quite correct about that. And I'm more than happy to ask that question and see what the feasibility of that is, and then I could certainly report back to you if that's what you would like, how you would like to proceed.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, so basically the difference is they're going to give us options. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that they're going to read the numbers and then give us options?
Correct. It's the data is what it is, but they would give us analysis and recommendations. And like I said, what's feasible out there and how much it might cost to implement, things like that.
Jeff, do you have a possible explanation of why this study might be helpful?
I think and Councilman Freeman makes a good point. Certainly we do have some traffic data that could save on the $17,000 not to exceed proposal. So it could certainly be significantly less if they aren't collecting the data and just using the data that we have. But I think the core of their charges, I suspect, would be related to the traffic engineering recommendations in terms of, are we looking at a road widening or other types of traffic calming measures that they could suggest to the town? So that would be the civil engineering part of it. And so again, tonight's request is just to approve a not to exceed amount. We can certainly ask them to use our data and scale back if there's some monetary value in that. But you are paying for an engineering firm to come in and make some traffic analysis and some civil engineering recommendations, both probably intermediate impacts as well as long-term fixes for the roadway. So I would probably recommend that at this point, just for those services alone. And certainly the cost could be less depending upon the savings in the data collection phase.
Mr. Egan?
I'm inclined to follow what Member Freeman just said. I don't have a problem with spending money, but like you said, we've got data. There may be some civil engineering aspects to this, but even in what we have discussed in workshop, we pretty well know what those answers are going to be. It's just a matter of our having the guts to make the decision that might be the harder of the decisions. But also paralleling with that and what we discussed in the workshop is just how do we let the citizens of the town, or maybe the citizens of the area, better know that this is a problem. And as I stated in the workshop, and we'll state here again, and we're working toward rectifying what I'm fixing to say is, it's through active visibility by patrolling officers, to me, is the approach to take. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all the police officers that are out there. Quite obviously, signage doesn't work, and in fact, I've almost thought about suggesting that maybe we just take all the street signs out, or at least not even speed limit signs out, because what good do they do pretty much anymore? I would think over the years, the average of the increased speed over the posted speed limit, that average is probably higher than it was, say, 20 years ago. But I think that's also due to how thin we are from a traffic patrol perspective. We were thin before when we had the sheriff's office. We've got a few more officers now, I believe, but we're still thin. And there's far more traffic coming through the town now than there was when we had DSO. So I think it's visibility, and we're working toward that as we discussed in the workshop, and which will be part of it would be item 13 that we're going to discuss here shortly. Again, we've got the data. I think we have adequate data to make the decisions. The problem is the decisions that the 7 of us have to make are not going to be easy ones to make, because there's pros and cons to each and every one of them.
Mr. Allen?
Mayor, I'm not opposed to spending the money for the recommendation. I think our town's just going to embark upon a new venture where there's going to be increased police, increased performance and conformance of some sort. I'd just like to be sure we capture all the possibilities, and if there's something that we haven't talked about that they can provide for us, I'd like to know that, because we are fixing to go down a new road that we haven't seen in our town, at whatever level that might be at.
Mr. Fitch?
I tend to agree with Mr. Allen. While I appreciate, I first had the same thought as my fellow council members, but as I look at the scope and I look at our town manager's recommendation, it seems like the more data, because we had a very small data window, a couple of days. If you look at their data gathering is 7 days, 168 hours on these roads, so we get a lot more data, and they're analyzing that data for us. While I appreciate what was given to us, I think having a comprehensive study, especially considering same things that Councilman Allen said about the number of complaints we get, seems like the more data we can add to that to really look at what's going on helps prepare us for the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm a fan of data, but are we willing to take action based upon what they're going to find with the data? If they come back and say we need shoulders, are we going to spend $1 million to put shoulders in? If they say we need traffic circles, we're going to spend the $500,000 to do traffic circles. So, I mean, 17 grand is just where it starts. The steps after is what really hits the pocketbook. And we're going to do something with it. And if we're not going to do anything with it, then why do it? If we're going to just, buying LPRs and buying trailers to monitor traffic, we can buy one trailer with 17 grand. And that's a long-term asset we can use versus a study we may do nothing with.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. But numbers are a funny thing, and they can tell us a lot of different stories. I just want to hear what they have to say that might support all the things we've talked about already, because there's going to be some backlash when we start hiring policemen and they start increasing the enforcement. I just want to be sure we've covered all the aspects, and maybe there's something else we haven't covered. Hey, I'm all in favor of doing all the things we've talked about as possibilities. Just want to be sure we haven't overlooked anything. I'm not a traffic expert unless you want to talk about traffic in the air, and then I might be able to talk about that. But I just so I just want to see what and I actually agree with you guys. I really do. Just, is there anything we're missing that can enhance us as a team?
Yeah, and I would just add one additional caveat to the thoughts here. I think we have the data. I think we've already come up with ideas as to what we think we could do, right? So I don't think that we're lacking ideas. And then we're also talking about something that we've kind of as a town thought that over the next 2 years, this road is going to take care of itself when Barnes Bridge opens up. So we get a study. East Fork, I'm sorry, when East Fork, when the bridge of East Fork goes. So putting in a study to study traffic, which is temporary, to make recommendations, which would be long-term recommendations, for a temporary problem. I'm not sure. I mean, I'll tell you this. I don't think the dollar amount is over the top. I mean, it's a small dollar amount. I'm just not sure that we need to spend the money. I think we've got the data and we've got the expertise to come up with ideas to fix the problem in the short term. So,
I just want to comment, and not to be argumentative, we have to stand up and have the you-know-whats to tell the people of we're not going to get complaints from the people of the town. Well, we're going to get some. But right now we're getting the complaints from the people of the town about the speeders. The people who are going to complain are the people that were complaining whenever the highway department changed the traffic pattern at Watha. And we started getting all the nasty phone calls. Those weren't Sunnyvale people. And we have to decide that when we start increasing enforcement within the town, just like I mentioned in the workshop, useless Eustis. And I didn't mean to be that negative about that, but that's what it was known as a place you didn't speed to go through. And I have asked on a number of occasions our past town managers, I don't care if Sunnyvale is known as the place you don't speed through. We need to get some level of control of it in our current society that really doesn't have a lot of respect for what speed limit signs say.
Mr. Clark?
So I'm wondering, is it possible to see some sample reports they've done? I'm wondering if we are missing something, some suggestions, because we covered a lot in the workshop. So I'm wondering what we could be missing. So is it possible to maybe get some sample reports, some just general suggestions they have? You know, is instead of paying the $17,000, maybe we talk to them and then try to see what types of consulting suggestions they'll have.
Do you mean it's like seeing what reports they may have done in the past for other similar roads in other cities?
Exactly. 'Cause I'm wondering if it is worth it, you know?
I'm certainly happy to ask that. I don't have any of those reports in my possession at this time. I'm certainly more than happy to ask that question.
I don't think it's about the $17,000. That's the last that this is about. We've got $17,000. This is about how do we proceed for a 2-year window of time, and maybe even a longer period of time, which includes the construction of 190, as that begins to trail into it. Because if we have to put wider shoulders down, that's a more permanent decision that's being made and a more long-lasting decision being made than speed humps, although I'm not a big fan of speed humps. I see the pros and the cons of it, but on an arterial, I struggle with it. Of having done it, forgetting the legalities that town attorney has mentioned. It's not about the money. It's about what can we do to get better control in the short term. And while it would be nice to get a report from the consultant, I don't think he's going to give us a whole lot more, any greater accuracy for 17 grand than we've already put together for whatever a speed trailer cost us.
Mr. Fitz, you have a question, comment, sir? Mr. Clark, you want? I have all the time tonight.
No, I agree with Councilmember Egan. I think we have some good ideas of how to start to address this. You know, traffic calming policies, updating traffic calming policies, and you know, increasing the police presence and whatnot. So, yeah, I go back to, I'd like to see maybe what they could offer, what type of other solutions they could offer. You know, and maybe again, maybe that's a sample or some other reports if they could share that.
Mayor, I just have one last thought.
Mr. Adams?
I don't, at least in my mind, I don't see this as a slowdown to anything we've talked about already. We would proceed with the things we've talked about, but then this would be a backdoor additional, did we miss something? Jeff, am I missing something?
I mean, I think you're bringing another civil engineering firm in to come in and collect the data, look at the data, and give us some civil engineering recommendations. We know that Rebecca Road is, I believe, programmed right now in our DMAIC Phase 3. So it is not a funded project, but it's out there. A roadway project that would be under construction sometime in the next 18 to 24 months. So I think it does, you know, at least gives you some ideas about some other things that we could do besides just simply overlaying the asphalt, right, fixing the base like we do with all the other DMAIC projects. So, you know, really, it's council's pleasure on what you want to do, if you want to engage the firm on this or not. But certainly, it does provide some additional civil engineering recommendations in terms of roadway impact and design changes for the future. I mean, that's essentially it. We could certainly look at saving some money on the data collection side if that's the council's preference. So we could certainly ask them to do that.
But we wouldn't wait on making a decision of some of the things we've talked about, waiting on this report. Would we still proceed with the things that we've considered that are on the next upcoming items, right?
Yeah, in terms of, absolutely. I mean, in terms of some of the short-term solutions, such as the speed trailers to help deter speeding on Rebecca, those are things that could happen fairly quickly. Obviously, long-term roadway improvements, whether you're looking at a traffic circle at an intersection, widening Rebecca so that there's shoulders where I mean, one of the challenges we have on some of our two-lane roadways with the bar ditches is there is no safe place on certain stretches of roads to issue a speeding ticket. It's not safe for the officer. It's not safe for the people that are being pulled over. And that certainly is the case on Rebecca, particularly when you get south of, St. James, and even kind of north of there as well. There just aren't very many good places. There's a perception that we do not currently patrol that stretch of road because it's not safe. And that is a perception that is not based in reality. It is not based in fact. We actually have, as you saw at work session, we do have officers that are patrolling Rebecca. But at any given time, we have 4 or 5 officers covering 16.5 square miles in North Sunnyvale, South Sunnyvale, and all corners of Sunnyvale. So it's difficult to patrol one roadway on a consistent basis. So we do patrol it, but it is I think the chief would acknowledge it's not a very safe roadway to be running traffic enforcement and issuing speeding tickets. But we do it as safely as we can, nevertheless.
Mr. Freire, you have a comment, sir?
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. And this you just spoke directly to my point. We've already seen the road. We know its issues. We've done analysis. We've come up with what the problems are, what needs to be fixed. I don't see why we need another person to come in and say the exact same things that we've actually already identified for something that could very well be not a problem when they do the widening of 80. So that's my only point.
Okay, council, we talked this for a while. So let me try to see whether we can get to some middle ground, right? I may not get there, but Jeff, I think let's kind of talk, right? So the civil engineering improvements, widening the road, shoulder, roundabout, I don't know there is appetite for that in the council. To widen the road, roundabout, I don't know there's appetite. So, but at the same time, right, you and me talked about this one. So is the purpose of the consultant report is to tell us, you may want to consider widening the road or roundabout, all of them, but that probably is not in I don't see that in our picture, right, future. Or are you looking for some sort of independent recommendation or a validation for what we already planned to do? That way, in case something else happened, we say, our office has done the study and that's just data. So we know what the numbers look like, and we have some thoughts in the workshop about what could be some of our traffic calming approaches are. Is the report we are asking, we are paying for, is it an independent validation or a second set of document to support what we plan to do, or is it to get the civil engineer recommendation? Because civil engineer recommendations, I don't think there is much to it, because we probably won't act on a roundabout, even widening for a 2-year, 3-year, even otherwise. So what is the goal, the final goal for the staff?
Well, Mayor, I think the ultimate goal is to change driver behavior on Rebecca Road through enforcement practices as well as potential physical improvements to the roadway, which would also alter driver behavior. Whether those recommendations come internally through town staff or through validation through a third-party engineer, that's one part of the equation. This was my idea to put this on the agenda. It won't hurt my feelings one iota if y'all want to not approve the contract. That's fine by me. I don't think it's going to bother Lyle one bit either. So this is just simply something else for you to consider as we look at trying to address some of the traffic safety issues on Rebecca Road. I will reiterate, and yes, do we need to hire another engineering firm to come in and talk about roadway improvements? Not necessarily. I mean, we do have a town engineer on staff. But the reality is it is an unsafe section of road when it comes to law enforcement and enforcing traffic. So without future improvements to the roadway, we will have the exact same condition and the exact same safety issues for our officers as well as for the driving public when we are enforcing speed limits on Rebecca. So this was just another angle at looking at some future potential improvements that could be made to the physical environment out there. Again, it's if y'all are not comfortable moving forward with it, then we certainly don't have to. That's council's prerogative. So.
Again, you heard everybody say $17,000. That money is not the issue, right? So again, we want to empower you and equip you, right, staff, with everything you need to do your job, right? And we ask staff to look into traffic calming on Rebecca and other roads, and you are trying to do that. Perhaps the only place I don't see it going, I think at least some of the same council members see widening or adding shoulders or roundabout. I don't think that's probably where the money is going to be spent, because like you said, we have many capital improvement projects which are not funded. So the adding money is not the case. But how do you, at the same time, that doesn't mean we got to put our officers, we got to protect our officers still, right? Then we talked about can they park one of the neighborhoods and then enforce the tickets. And there are limitations you talked about. So we want to, I think I am at least for approving this proposal if that's for the right reason. But if the recommendation we asking or looking for is expand the road or roundabout, I think that recommendation is probably not going to be acted on. So if you're looking for
Mayor,
that, if you're looking for the third party agreement or validation of staff's traffic calming policies, then that's one thing. So
I don't think we have any preconceived notions about what we're hoping that Kimley Horn would find, or what they would recommend, or if they would be recommending something that is something that staff thinks already needs to be done. There could be other traffic calming or roadway improvement suggestions that they may have that we haven't thought of. I don't know what those might be at this point. Again, it was just another set of eyes to come in and take a look at the situation and make some recommendations. So if council would prefer not to move in that direction, that's perfectly fine with staff.
So, Council, let me ask you, I know there's a different thought, just one last comment, trying to attempt to bring everybody together, right? So, what if we table this topic and with the idea that staff go back and ask Kimley for strictly for their recommendation, traffic study plus the recommendation on traffic calming, and not necessarily civil engineering recommendation. Would that work for everybody, or do you think we don't need that either?
I don't think we need it. I would rather spend this money toward doing some of the things that we have identified that could be possibly done.
Okay.
That, and it's not much. It's going to be an inch of pavement or an inch of shoulder.
Okay.
It's not going to go toward solving what I see to be a short-term problem, considering what the state's doing with nearby highways that are going to help improve through town traffic.
Yeah. Okay. I tried to bring everybody. That's okay. Tell you what. Let's just go with what the council do. Let's just vote. Can I have a motion? Let me ask you. Anyone else have any comments or discussions on this topic? If not, I'm going to call for a motion, and I'm just going to keep it open, and somebody can make a motion, and it depends on where the vote comes, we'll decide. Okay.
So would this be a motion to deny?
No, I'm just going to open. I'm just going to make a motion. I'm sorry? Could be either or, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask a motion.
Give me a motion to table.
My motion's first, which will be a motion to deny.
Okay, so let me call for the motion. Can I have a motion with respect to item number 10, please?
Motion to deny item 10 as discussed.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Egan and second by Mr. Eldridge to deny item number 10. Everyone heard the motion. Are there additional discussions?
And following what you were saying, Mayor, it seems like you are interested in tabling this.
But again, Yeah, motion is on the table.
Motion on the table, right, but we can discuss, so.
Yes, you can discuss,
is-
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but again, continuing the discussion, but if there is no path forward, even if you table it, we just kick the can down the road, come back next week, we're going to still kick in the can, right? So, okay, so any other discussions on this topic? Okay. If there's none, all in favor of the motion to deny signify. All opposed? Motion passed 4-3 to deny item number 10. I gotta break the tie. That's that's what I look forward to every single day. Tell you what, come to council meeting. Item number 11, discuss concern act upon resolution 2023-03 adopting an updated traffic calming policy for the town's arterial streets. I just gonna let you know I'm out of tie breaks for tonight, okay? So don't make me tie break anymore. Okay, that be you, Mr. Jones, or that be you, Mr. Lyle? Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir. This is an update to the town's currently existing traffic calming policy. Just a bit of background, council adopted the current policy back in, I believe it was 2019. That policy at the time was geared primarily toward giving residents within the town a path to petition the town to install traffic calming devices within their residential neighborhoods. It provided standards of eligibility and provided for a petition path and a number of steps to present such a request to the council, evaluate it, and approve it. The policy didn't really address the town's arterial streets. Again, it was geared primarily towards streets interior to residential subdivisions. That being the case with the current issues that we're dealing with, we wanted to revise the policy, just try to keep it, just to simply give council the option and the ability to take action to implement any calming policies that they might deem fit on the town's arterial roadways. As far as roads internal to residential subdivisions, there would be no change to the policies and effects in relation to those. The proposal would be to use the same standards of eligibility for roadways as far as that is practical when evaluating the town's arterial roads, to provide a basis for consistent evaluations and recommendations. That's basically what we're looking to do tonight. That being said, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Let me open up for public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 11, you may do so at this time. Okay, nobody's coming forward. I'm going to close the public comments. Council discussions or questions on item number 11. Mr. Park?
So I helped put this together a few years ago for the roads in the neighborhoods, and with what's going on right now on everybody using our roads for cut-throughs, I think this may be a good option that we want to have available as we look at trying to reduce the speeders, and so I'm in favor of this update to this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Are there additional comments?
And let me just add
Yes, sir.
a little bit of my the reason why I actually like traffic calming solutions like this. Where I previously lived in Washington, D.C., and then also in Virginia, I saw speed humps being utilized, and they were very, very effective, both in D.C. and in Virginia. And so that's why I was in favor of originally getting this through.
What type of roads?
For those were more neighborhoods. Actually, one was a neighborhood and one was more artillery. Yes. So both.
Okay. Are there additional comments? Mr. Egan?
The reason arterials are called arterials is because they're intended to carry high volumes of traffic over that of a neighborhood. when you have high volumes of traffic and you start trying to put in mechanical mechanisms that cause vehicles to slow down, you're gonna have a mess. One good example that was not mentioned earlier, and I'm not faulting Lyle for this, but just because it was a generalized thing that Kimberly Horn is putting together. One mechanism that Mesquite has used is they've modified several of their 6-lane divided arterial roadways so that now there are 2 left-hand turning lanes and 2 straight-through lanes. And we all know one of those particular intersections because it's Town East at Galloway. They've also done it at Gus Thomas and Town East. They've done it on several of their intersections, as has Garland has done it, and I can't think of the particular intersections right now. I had suggested at one time, probably 3 years ago, that maybe we talk to somebody about doing something similar at Town East and Beltline, that you're not causing a mechanical means of slowing vehicles down, but you are backing traffic up, and as a result, that balloon starts bulging out in different places, as we've talked about before graphically in terms of what goes on. I don't disagree that might have been done up in Virginia and Washington, D.C., but I don't know that we can say that that's apples and apples to what we have here, because I don't know what the traffic patterns were like up there and what you're dealing with. I see issues from emergency response perspective, whether it's law enforcement or ambulance and fire. I also see issues of drivability that I believe is where town attorney comes from with regard to a traffic calming device, whether it be a hump in the road, a downward hump or an upward hump or something of that nature. I think we leave the traffic calming policy as we have it. If we have trouble with people racing through neighborhoods, then we solve that problem. And we've got that ability to solve that problem. But when it comes to arterials, other than making modifications, which we don't have a lot of opportunity to do except for Town East and Beltline and possibly Tripp and Beltline, you know, at some point, people, this group of people, the 7 of us sitting up here, have to talk to the residents and say, we have a policy that does that. And by the way, the traffic count is increasing throughout the town. And as y'all heard me say a couple of times tonight, the bad apple spoils the bunch. You know, I've got 3 people who feel like they're race car drivers that live on Barnes Bridge, and my traffic count isn't anywhere near what the chief was talking about this morning. You know, it's just the way life is. And we're not going to be able to, by going in and putting some, to a certain degree to me, when it comes to a hump in the road, that type of a traffic calming device is, you're creating other problems for the majority of people who obey the law. It's a small number of people who don't. And that's where, again, we're going to provide the Sunnyvale PD with more resources to be able to have eyes on the ball, so to speak. And that's my 5 seconds worth.
Mr. Egan, I fully respect what you said and I agree with you, right? We got to support a PD and there are actions below that. But earlier we just talked about, you know, getting a civil engineering report to widen the road. That way officers can be there and control the traffic. But we as a council rejected that traffic study, right? So now we are down to what else can we do? Traffic calming devices, right?
Mayor, I believe the CIP report talks about a lot of the roads that they're having trouble stopping people on to develop those roads. We just don't have the money to do that right now.
You're absolutely right. So that's the reality. So that's a constraint. That's a monument we work with. So knowing that that's a constraint, that's a monument we had to work with. What else can we do, right? And to your point, fully agree with you. The volume will increased and will continue to increase. I don't know, we can, and staff will always tell you, we cannot stop the cut-through traffic, but the expectation is they follow our laws. That means we don't necessarily prevent cut-through traffic, which probably we won't be, but we encourage them or incentivize them to follow our laws. We looked at the report earlier, right? Majority of the people are speeding, right? Maybe some of them are just 5 miles above the speed limit, some of them are much higher than that. But to your point, traffic cushions or any other common devices, it's not going to bother the normal drivers. It's only going to bother that bad apple you mentioned about who's spoiling the bunch. So doing nothing is not, when we have a problem, doing nothing is not good enough. But I know we talked about speed trailers and all of them coming up next. But I think it's more of a short-term, long-term type of measure. So I am in favor of approving this policy change.
Mayor, I just want to say, we're not doing nothing. We are doing something.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Who's that, Mr. Finch?
So just to clarify, the change in the ordinance just allows the council to have the ability to make changes, to actually implement it. We're not doing anything other than changing the ordinance to say we have the ability to make a change, right?
That's right.
And then whatever change we decide, there's further discussion. This gives us the options, right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody else? Anybody else? Are there additional comments or discussions? Okay. If there are no other discussions, can I have a motion with respect to item number 11, please?
I'll make a motion to deny item 11 as presented.
That's the motion. Motion made by Mr. Egan to deny item number 11 as presented. Everyone heard, is there a second? Motion made by Councilmember Egan to deny item number 11. Is there a second? Motion made by Mr. Egan to deny item number 11. Is there a second? Okay. Without a second, the motion failed. Do you have a motion with respect to, different motion with respect to item number 11?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 11.
Motion made by Mr. Clark to approve item number 11 as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Finch. Everyone heard the motion. Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. All opposed? Motion passed, 6-1. Voting in favor, Mr. Finch, Mr. Allen, Mr. Clark, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Eldridge, and Mr. George. Voting against, Mr. Egan. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item number 12. Discuss, consider, and act upon approving the purchase of 2 new police stalker SAM trailers. Love you, Chief. Good evening, Chief, one more time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to leave you all this brochure as we pass it around. That's the trailer that we were previously discussing. They are $8,955 a piece, which would bring it to $17,910. There is an additional charge for shipping, and I don't have that with me right now. And someone asked in the work session, how long would it take to get these? 12 weeks or less is the shipping time. That would give us 3 total trailers that we could deploy in different areas of town at the same time.
Any questions for Chief Hawks?
Did we open for public comments?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Let me open up for public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 12, you may do so at this time. No one is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, any questions or discussions, item number 12? Okay, if there are no questions or you have a comment, sir? Mr. Clark?
So following up on part of our discussion in the workshop just now, I'm definitely in favor of this. I think this is a good move, so I appreciate you bringing this to the council that we can act on this. So thank you. And also, I am interested in hearing about what we can add on to it, some different options. Also, we talked about in the workshop.
That's for the future, right?
Right, for future, but
Yeah,
this
moving
is-
forward with this one.
Right.
Oh, that's your
Right,
recommendation.
exactly. I'd like to move forward with this, yes.
Okay, if there are no other discussions, can I have a motion with respect to item number 12?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve item number 12 as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Egan to approve item number 12 as presented. Everyone heard the motion. Are there additional discussions? If not, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 7-0. We're making progress, right? Item number 13, discuss, consider, and act upon approving the purchase and outfitting of 2 new police vehicles for patrol.
Mayor, as Chief
Chief.
Hawks is on his way to the podium to present this recommendation, I just want to add, we will be having a mid-year budget discussion with council in April, and so the previous item, discussion of potentially other technology we can add to the speed trailer certainly would be something that we could bring back in April as well. Tonight, item number 13, we are asking staff, or staff recommendation is for Mayor and Council's approval to purchase 2 additional squad cars for the Sunnyvale PD. This is not a staffing request, but it certainly would be a prelude to a potential staffing request at the mid-year budget process for the council's consideration of adding additional officers dedicated to traffic enforcement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mayor and
Chief?
council. And I talked with the town manager about the urgency to just purchase some vehicles in general, because these are the last, we were being told, these are the last 2 available squad cars in the nation until September. And this dealership has been holding them for us in anticipation for tonight that it'll get approved. But the cost of the car per vehicle is $30,356, and to upfit the cars is $29,576 per car. So it's just under 60,000, or right at 60,000 per car. And our fleet is aging, and our maintenance cost is going up. And we've got a new Charger that we're waiting to upfit, but they're waiting on parts. So this would give us 3 newer vehicles. Our fleet now are our 2020s.
Chief, maybe this may be too much into details with the finance group, maybe. We have a vehicle program.
Mayor, we do have a general fund. We do contribute each year from each department into the general fund, a separate account for fleet replacements. These would be additions to the fleet, although from a cash flow standpoint, we have over $1 million in that fund. So we have the ability to certainly acquire additional pieces of equipment without having any negative impact on the current operating budget or to our set-aside fleet fund dollars in the general fund. We do actually have $180,000 budgeted in the operating budget for this year's police department budget. And this would be, if approved tonight, would be the third of 3 Chargers to be acquired at $60,000 apiece. It would actually be the $180,000 we have in our operating budget would cover those costs, and then they would certainly be added to the replacement schedule in the future.
So it's not an added expense, it's just already budgeted item.
It is currently budgeted in the current fiscal year budget in the police operating budget for fleet vehicles. Yes, we had $180,000. We spent $60,000.
Yes, I mean, so when it comes to 2024 budget, we will update or increase our fleet contribution to the fleet replacement.
Yes, sir. By adding 2 additional vehicles to the fleet, the PD would be increasing their contribution to the fund for the replacement, future replacement of those vehicles. That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Let me open up for public comments on item number 13. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who'd like to speak to the council, item number 13, you may do so at this time. Nobody's coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, any questions on 13?
Hey, Chief, quick question. You can answer me from there if you like. Just curious about transitioning from the SUV type vehicle we have now to a car. Is that because of the type of work you're requesting them to do, or is it just because of supply, or what?
It's totally available.
Just supply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we can order
Durangos ahead, but you gotta do it like 6 months out.
Yeah,
That's why there's actually police cars at dealerships sitting on the ground, but they're already bought and paid and accounted for agencies.
I was just curious. I know sometimes the SUV has a lot more utility, and so I was just curious if it was preference on type of duty or supply.
Additional questions or discussions? Okay, if there are none, can I call for a motion item number 13?
Motion to approve.
Yes.
Motion made by Mr. Eldred, second by Mr. Freeman to approve item number 13 as presented. Everyone heard the motion. Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 7-0. Item number 14, Mayor and Council request for future staff updates and agenda items. Mr. Freeman?
I know I've brought this up before, and I know that, Ms. Jones, you've discussed that we're going to have some possible budget discussions in April. Would it be possible for the town to put together some items in regards to upgrading our cell phone towers, our connectivity, just a basic technology package for the town? It just seems that all of that is lacking in comparison to, I think, how much the town uses those types of things. And again, it might be that it's way too cost prohibitive for us to even think about it, but just some baseline numbers of kind of, or what other towns are doing, because I just think it's an area that we need to improve on.
I talked to Mr. Jeff. Okay, it's sort of discussion item. Okay, so we'll come back to it. Additional requests. Okay, if there are none, next is the executive session. Can I have a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to section 551.071, consultation with attorney related to Catherine Henderson restitution deficiency and Adrian Crane versus the town of Sunnyvale, and section 551.074, personnel matters, interim finance director, CFO/ATO.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 and pursuant to section 551.074.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Freeman, second Mr. Clark, to adjourn the executive session. Everyone heard the motion? All in favor, signify. Ms. Larry? Motion made, past 7-0. Time is 8:40. We are in executive session. It's 8:49. We are back out in the open session for the executive session. I can confirm that as a result of the executive session, no action needs to be taken. With that, council can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Finch to adjourn. All in favor signify. Motion, all opposed. Motion passed 7-0. Time is 8:49 and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, officer. Appreciate you being here. Good night.